Hey, it's Emma Chamberlain. I designed these new glasses for Warby Parker, and I basically can't take them off. Like, I'm showering in them and sleeping in them. They're just that good. Go see them all at warbyparker.com. And you know what? Have a good day too. Okay? All right? Bye.
How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
My fellow Americans, welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. Glad to have you with me. I'm from rural Louisiana this weekend, and I am literally broadcasting in a cabin built in the 1870s. It's a nice setup, though. Here visiting with my parents this week. Now, the phone number, 877-973-7425. If you want to the program, we've got to begin with what I think really is the big story of the day, which is the reckoning coming to the Democrats over the anti-Semitism we're seeing among their own side. Now, keep in mind, for the last number of years, there have been repeated stories in the press about the anti-Semitism coming from the GOP. And the people surrounding Donald Trump, the Candace Owens of the world, the Nick Fuenteses of the world, people like that. People, they're in the weird sphere. They're the island of misfit toys who have glummed onto Donald Trump, some of whom he's given closer access. Nick Fuentes, when he was exposed as an anti-Semite, pushed aside to a degree. But there has been in the Unite the Right rally, the Tiki Torch Whites in Charlottesville, Virginia. They chanted, "The Jews will not replace us." Now, that wasn't tied to Donald Trump, but they tried to. And we need a moment of intellectual honesty here before we begin. There are many of you who believe that Donald Trump said there are some very good people in Charlottesville, Virginia, and that he meant that about the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists. That's not really true. In fact, had you gotten my show notes email this morning, I put the transcript of what he said in there in this interview. You can see it for yourself. He's interviewed by a reporter. What about the alt-left that came charging at, as you say, at the alt-right? Trump says, "Do they have any semblance of guilt? I've condemned neo-Nazis. I've condemned many groups. But not all of those people were neo-Nazis. Believe me, you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists. The press treated them absolutely unfairly. You also had some very fine people on both sides." And he's talking about the protest where these Tiki Torch Whites showed up. There was a pre-existing protest about taking down a statue of Robert E. Lee in Charlottesville, Virginia. There's some who showed up to support it, some who showed up to oppose it, and then the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists and the Antifa activists all showed up. And Donald Trump excludes all of those people, and then respecting the actual protesters who showed up on both sides of the issue of that statue, said you had some very fine people on both sides. It was, you should note, accurately reported. Jake Tapper at CNN, one of the people who accurately reported it at the time, that he wasn't talking about the neo-Nazis. He wasn't talking about the white nationalists. But it became convenient to malign and smear Donald Trump. And so it became, and most people now believe because of what the media did, believe Donald Trump was referring to the neo-Nazis and white nationalists as the very fine people. He was not doing that. A lot of people wanted to lie. The problem is, we've had lots of media coverage now since Charlottesville in particular, where the Tiki Torch Whites in their white shirts and khaki pants were chanting, "The Jews will not replace us." To his credit, on yesterday's show, Jake Tapper discussed this particular issue and had Franklin Foer, a staff writer at The Atlantic, on. If you subscribe to the show notes, I embedded this video. If you text data to 33777, you can get this video for yourself in today's show notes. I wrote it. Philip's on vacation. Right as the show went out, I sent this out, and this is the audio.
Is there much of a difference between killing Zionists and Jews will not replace us, which is what we heard in Charlottesville?
It's all of a piece. I mean, there's a rhetoric of elimination of Jews, of hatred of Jews, that vilifies Jews and that views them as dehumanized. And we have to remember there are two different visions of Palestinian politics. There's a vision embedded in the Palestinian Authority that has committed itself to peaceful coexistence with the Jewish people in one land, and then there's Hamas, which relies on the protocols of Elder of Zion in its manifesto, that in its original charter called for the genocide of Jews, and that has practiced terrorism throughout its history, and in fact has destroyed every moment where the Palestinians have been close to making a permanent peaceful solution with the Jews in Israel.
Now, the left-wing activists this weekend chanted, "Kill the Zionists." If you're wondering what a Zionist is, a very simple, truthful definition is you believe the Jews have the right to a nation state called Israel, and then it has a right to exist. If you believe that, if you believe the Jewish people should be allowed a homeland called Israel and Israel has a right to exist, you're a Zionist. I'm a Zionist. They're chanting, "Kill the Zionists." So they're not chanting, "Kill the Jews." They're chanting, "Kill people like me, a Presbyterian, Protestant, evangelical, so white socks disappear on me when I put them on, Southerner who believes the Jews have the right to a nation state." That if you believe that, they're saying, "Kill you, kill the Zionists." This is the left. This is the political left. These people are partisans of the left. Now, Donald Trump said the white nationalists and the neo-Nazis in Charlottesville, Virginia, that they weren't with him. They opposed his values. But the media gave him no pass on that, because the media said, no, Mr. President, these are the people who are supporting you. These are the people who are voting for the right. These are the people who are moving to the right. And this was the cause that caused Joe Biden to run for president of the United States. Joe Biden himself said Charlottesville is why he ran for president. The very first two words Joe Biden uttered in his very first campaign announcement were Charlottesville, Virginia. But when you point out these political agitators on the left, they're the ones who show up at Democratic activist groups. They're the ones who vote for left-wing politicians like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. These are the people in the Democratic coalition. These are the people Joe Biden needs to run for office to stop Donald Trump. The media won't do to the Democrats what they do to the GOP. In fact, the media weaves it all together so it's a cohesive narrative on the right that everyone on the right is a white nationalist, and then tries to make excuses for the left. The media is part of the problem. Kudos to Jake Tapper at CNN for taking this on. He's one of the few who has. Now, part of the problem with this weekend protest, if we're real honest about it, okay, so in the media, and any of you listening, any of you program directors listening, any of you on TV or radio listening right now, you know this is true. The weekend is where the B team works. The weekend is where the people who are not quite proficient yet to be the main stars of TV, the main producers, the main editors, that's where they go to learn. They go on the weekend. So the protest outside the White House happened over the weekend, and the B team was on. The B team was in charge. So it didn't get as much coverage as it probably could have or should have. And that's not an excuse. That's just explaining to you what goes on here. However, yesterday in New York City, yesterday was a Monday, B team's home for the week. The A team's in charge now. The top guns of the media on a Monday, they're sharp, they're rested on Wall Street. Antifa activists, left-wing college students chanted in the streets. I'm not making this up. They chanted, "Long live October 7th." They chanted that. It's caught on film. One of the people who was there, I can't play it for you because of the profanity, but he said if Hitler, or let me actually, I want to give the exact quote because I don't want to paraphrase. This is the exact quote. I wish Hitler were here. He would have wiped all of you out, chanted an African-American man who is at the protest yelling, I wish Hitler was here. He would have wiped all of you out. This wasn't a Palestinian. This wasn't an Arab. This was a black American man at this protest in Union Square in New York City, caught for the whole world to see. Where is the press? But more importantly, where is Joe Biden on this? Joe Biden can't talk about this without doing we can't Islamophobia. We can't have any of this hate. It's no one's out there saying death to the Muslims. No one's out there saying death to the Palestinians. No one's out there saying round up all of the Muhammad worshipers. No one's making the insults about Islam. The left-wing activists are saying kill the Zionists, and I wish Hitler were here. And Joe Biden says nothing. The media does play a role in this, and I know because I'm aware of who listens to this program. Some of you in the anchor desks in New York and Washington, you use your programs to demand that Donald Trump denounce the anti-Semitism of the right. You said if he didn't, he was embracing it. Y'all haven't done that with Joe Biden. Why? Why are you in the media so silent about it with Joe Biden when you weren't with Donald Trump? You know the answer. You know the answer. You hate Donald Trump so much that you're willing to turn a blind eye to what is festering on your own side because you're on that side. You're on the left. You support Joe Biden. You don't want to say it because you think you've got to maintain a level of objectivity on TV, but you hate Donald Trump. And you hate what you think has become of the Republican Party. So you're willing to allow this to fester on the left. You're willing to allow this to fester among the Democratic Party. And just how bad is this? Again, if you subscribe to the show today, it really is going to follow the show because I didn't pass it off to fill up all my links. I put it together myself. Do you buy from Patagonia? Oh, you white people listening, you know you love your Patagonia outfits. You go to Patagonia and you buy your puffy jackets and your Han Solo vest from Patagonia. You white people love it. You're funding terrorists. Patagonia has sent more than $139,000 since 2016 to Alliance for Global Justice, tax records show. The same progressive Arizona-based organization, a recent Washington Examiner investigation found, is linked to the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine terror group, a fact that prompted donors and payment processors such as PayPal to cut ties with the organization amid mounting scrutiny from Congress. Patagonia's funding of AFGJ is a window into how major corporations operating in the United States financially boost groups that take aim at the Jewish state of Israel, including the Alliance for Global Justice, which has said it sponsors 140 projects and reported holding $11 million in assets in its most recent tax forms. It is an insidiousness on the left. The journalist in Gaza who was holding the hostages worked for an American nonprofit that has ties to Iran, that provides supposed journalism, actually propaganda in Gaza. It's a left-wing nonprofit from the United States. Patagonia, left-wing organization funding the Alliance for Global Justice, which is tied to a Palestinian terror group. You have other major American corporations giving donations to groups. And let's be clear here, I don't think the corporations know. It's just they don't care. They don't care to know because it's so the left is so infested with anti-Semitism now. You give donations to left-wing groups, they're funding terrorists, and many of them either don't know or don't care. And the President of the United States is silent. He won't speak out because he's afraid of risking votes in a tight election. That's not leadership. That's actually pretty damnable.
This is the sound of your ride home with Dad after he caught you vaping. Awkward, isn't it? Most vapes contain seriously addictive levels of nicotine and disappointment. Know the real cost of vapes. Brought to you by the FDA.
Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. Hunter Biden guilty on all counts in federal court. He was going to take a plea. And before you liberals get excited and say, see, the Justice Department prosecuted him, remember they only did after a whistleblower came forward and suggested they were cutting a sweetheart deal and made revelations that caused them to change the plea deal they were offering Hunter Biden, which caused him to reject the plea deal. Them's the facts, whether you like it or not. They were going to try to let him slide. They didn't because of a whistleblower. And by the way, they've been relentlessly hounding the whistleblower ever since, punishing the whistleblower. But he is guilty. Now, here's something I want to note. It is a little self-serving, I admit. Did you know that Salem Media has had to withdraw the 2000 Mules video, documentary, and book because there's a lot of stuff in it not true? Did you know the number of right-wing media outlets that are shutting down because of defamation lawsuits against them from private citizens who were defamed over the 2020 election stuff? I try to be honest, and sometimes you people get mad at me because I'm telling you stuff you don't believe is true, and you get mad and you call and you cuss out my call screener. Happened to him the other day. Somebody called and cussed him out because I said something that was true, but they didn't believe it. I try not to lie. Don't get everything right. I was appalled by the number of people in talk radio who matter-of-factly insisted there was no way Hunter Biden was going to be found guilty because the fix was in for him. And a lot of people began to doubt because people they trusted were saying, oh, the fix is in. Of course, they're having this in Delaware. It's Biden's friends on the jury, people with political motivations. He's not going to be found guilty. He's guilty on all counts. You know, we're all at war with truth these days. The left and the right, they're just, the horseshoe theory, I think, is real. And it's really disappointing to me because a lot of people are being misled badly on both sides. And it's causing people to run to extremes and embrace extremism. And it's not healthy for our society when so many voices are willing to lie in order just to spin you up, like Rachel Maddow on TV saying she really fears being rounded up and put in a camp if Trump's reelected. No, she doesn't, but she hopes her audience believes it. Remember, James Hodgkinson loved her show before he went and tried to mass assassinate Republican members of Congress. She doesn't care about the truth, and we all should. The truth is as well that Vision Computers can save you if you're in a bind with your technical issues with your computers. If you got an office or home and you don't have a computer, you don't have to have bought a computer from Vision. They can still become your tech support solution. So if you call them at 404-COMPUTE, tell them I sent you, you get a great deal, and then in 15 seconds or less, they'll answer your tech problems. You get a special number you get to call, and they can answer your questions faster than a Google search. You don't know how to do something on your computer, you're trying to navigate, something's not working right, you think, you call Vision, they give you the answer for your home or your office. Your employees, they can be great at their jobs while Vision's great at managing their computers. 404-COMPUTE, give them a call, tell them I sent you. You can also go to visioncomputers.com, but if you go to visioncomputers.com, and by the way, they can build you great computers too. They won't give you the discount that you get by mentioning my name if you call them at 404-COMPUTE. It's worth a call. Work with Vision Computers for your home, for your office, for your family. Build your computers with them. Let them support your computers. 404-COMPUTE. Call Vision Computers today.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. The holidays are here, and you know what that means. It's time to get your friends and family the gifts they deserve. Take the stress out of shopping with Amazon's great deals and low prices on a huge range of items from toys to tech and much more. Whoever you're gifting for, Amazon has great prices on everything you need this holiday season. Shop Amazon for all your gifting needs.
Welcome. It is Eric Erickson. The phone number is 877-973-7425 should you wish to be on the program. So before I go on, I gotta set the scene for you guys. If you follow me on Instagram, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Rumble, wherever. EW Erickson, EWERICKSON. I put up a picture on Instagram of where I am, and on Twitter as well. I am it is a shack. It is a wooden shack in rural Louisiana, built in the 1870s. I got in last night, and I opened the door, and the lights were on inside, and all the bugs came in with me, and I had to spend a good little while getting the moths and everything else dead before I could go to bed. It's a nice little setup. 2 bathrooms. One has a tub. One has a shower. It's in the Feliciana, St. Francisville, Louisiana. It's a beautiful area. This is where I grew up. But I'm here to visit my parents this week. I got to take them to a lawyer. My sister take them to a doctor. We're kind of hanging out with them this week. But I got into this place last night. It was pitch black, other than there was one light on in the window. Didn't know where I was going. I've never stayed in this place before. Found it on Airbnb. And I just waited for a man in a hockey mask to show up to kill me last night, and he never arrived. It looks like something where you would see everybody gets mass murdered in the horror movie. It's a cabin in the woods, just a very old cabin in the woods, waiting for a man in a hockey mask to come show up and knock on the door. But I survived. It's actually very nice. There's a great little coffee shop down the street. And one of my favorite restaurants in the area is very near. So it's a very nice place, but it is ancient of days. The floor is like squishy. I'm bouncing. In fact, I have to stand to do the show. All 3 hours I got to stand because there's nowhere for me to sit down given the area where I had to set up all the equipment. I carried all my equipment over from my office and got it set up here. I didn't want to try to borrow a radio station because that would have been 30, 45 minutes away from my parents, and I got to take them on errands this week. So I am in this shack with my radio equipment. I got Wi-Fi, and I got a fridge, I got cold water, and I got a bed and a shower, and it's not the Ritz, but it works great. Now, let's move into the rest of the show. This is... Look, I don't want to spend the whole day on this. There's a lot of stuff. In fact, Donald Trump has shaken up the race. The polling out of Nevada is causing Democrats ulcers. We'll get to it, but I have to do this. This isn't something I want to do. This is an exclusive story from the Wall Street Journal. It is dropped this morning. And the headline is this: Gaza chief's brutal calculation, civilian bloodshed will help Hamas. Yahya Sinwar's correspondence with compatriots and mediators shows he is confident Hamas can outlast Israel. For months, Yahya Sinwar has resisted pressure to cut a ceasefire and hostage deal with Israel. Behind his decision, messages the Hamas military leader in Gaza has sent to mediators show is a calculation that more fighting and more Palestinian civilian deaths work to his advantage. We have the Israelis right where we want them, Sinwar said in a recent message to Hamas officials seeking to broker an agreement with Qatari and Egyptian officials. Fighting between Israeli forces and Hamas units in the Gaza Strip south has disrupted humanitarian aid shipments, caused mounting civilian casualties, and intensified international criticism of Israel's efforts to eradicate the Islamist extremist group. For much of Sinwar's political life, shaped by bloody conflict with an Israeli state that he says has no right to exist, he has stuck to a simple playbook. Backed into a corner, he looks to violence for a way out. The current fight in Gaza is no exception. In dozens of messages reviewed by the Wall Street Journal that Sinwar has transmitted to ceasefire negotiators, Hamas compatriots outside Gaza, and others, he's shown a cold disregard for human life and made clear he believes Israel has more to lose from the war than Hamas. The messages were shared by multiple people with differing views on Sinwar. More than 37,000 people have been killed in Gaza since the start of the war, most of them civilians, Palestinian officials say. That figure doesn't specify how many were combatants. Health authorities said almost 300 Palestinians were killed Saturday in an Israeli raid that rescued 4 hostages kept in captivity and homes surrounded by civilians, driving home for some Palestinians their role as pawns for Hamas. In one message to Hamas leaders in Doha, Sinwar cited civilian losses in national liberation conflicts in places like Algeria, where hundreds of thousands of people died fighting for independence from France, saying these are necessary sacrifices. In an April 11th letter to Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh, after 3 of Haniyeh's adult sons were killed by an Israeli airstrike, Sinwar wrote that their deaths and those of other Palestinians would infuse life into the veins of this nation, prompting it to rise to its glory and honor. They want the people of Gaza to die. Now, let me go back to a key paragraph here. More than 37,000 people have been killed in Gaza since the start of the war. Health authorities said almost 300 Palestinians were killed Saturday. You can't believe those numbers, actually. And the Wall Street Journal should have noted that fact. These numbers come from Hamas. Gaza health authorities work for Hamas. The higher the number, the more they think it helps them against Israel. The higher the death toll, the more they think it makes Israel look bad. And in fact, the international media plays into Hamas's propaganda campaign. When you see the numbers, when you hear the numbers, when you hear the coverage, when you see the coverage, you must understand, based on this man's own text message exchange, it is part of a propaganda campaign to turn people against Israel, to turn nations against Israel. The Belgian prime minister is resigning just 2 weeks ago before this massive European shift to the right. The left-wing premier of Belgium announced that Europe should impose sanctions on Israel for the killings in Gaza. He was a pawn of Hamas's campaign. The Spanish prime minister has declared what's happening has declared a 2-state solution. He's recognized Gaza as part of a Palestinian nation, and yet he's now telling everyone, don't say it's a genocide. He's telling, have you heard about this? The Palestinian prime minister decided to recognize Palestine, condemned Israel's brutality and hostility, said he was going to recognize Gaza as a Palestinian nation state, and then has told all of his ministers, hey, stop calling it a genocide, because if it's a genocide, we have to admit Palestinians into Spain. I'm not making that up. This is a true story. He recognized it as a sovereign nation and is now telling all of his ministers, stop using the word genocide, because under Spanish law, they would have to admit Palestinians into Spain if it was a genocide, and they don't actually want those people there. It's an organized propaganda campaign. What's so infuriating to me in all of this is that you don't have to be a rocket scientist to have known this all along. It's nice to see the Wall Street Journal get these exchanges. It's nice to have this confirmed. We've known it, and now we know that he knows it, that he's acknowledged it, that he's explained it, that he's rationalized it. So why is the international press still going along with it? Over 200 Palestinians were killed this weekend when 4 Israeli hostages were rescued. If it was an American hostage and the United States stormed in to rescue the hostages, the world wouldn't have batted an eyelash. It was the American sovereign nation doing everything, moving heaven and earth to rescue an American from bad guys. But because it was Israel rescuing Israeli citizens, they're the bad guys. They're always the bad guys. The level of anti-Semitism is a canary in the coal mine that something is wrong in the Western world, and it is pervasive in the left. There are parts of the right, the National Press Corps. Some of you like Candace Owens, or did. I hope you don't. She's increasingly showing herself to be a ruthless, ridiculous anti-Semite. Blaming Israel. She's defending the Nazis. She's had ridiculous tweets defending the Nazis. It's on the right. People on the right platform her. I thought it was very interesting. Turning Point USA, TP USA, continues to have Candace Owen come to their events where they have other employees who are have been very vocal anti-Semites online. But they've set up a website. If you Google about Candace Owen and TP USA, you go to a website where they distance themselves from her. I mean, this is search engine optimization. You put in Candace Owens, TP USA, they have a website where it distances them, that they do not agree with the things she says. She's not an official person, but if you just go to TP USA's website, she's all over the place. She's attending conferences and stuff. They're trying to have it both ways. Ridiculous anti-Semitism on the right. It must be called out. It must be stamped out. It's happening on the left as well. And the media won't do anything about it. And here now we have the text messages from Hamas's military leader where he says they need a higher body count. They want a higher body count. They want these people in Gaza to die because they think it helps them against Israel. This is part of an organized campaign. They're willing to allow these people to die. And notice, even the Wall Street Journal notes, they're not willing to separate out the death toll of civilians to Hamas personnel because the Palestinians don't do that. They believe everyone is a part of the war, so they won't separate it out. You won't find a separated out death toll that's accurate between Hamas and civilians. You won't find a death toll that's accurate. I mean, it took Israel a week to figure out how many people had actually been kidnapped, but somehow within 3 minutes of an Israeli incursion, the Gazans say, oh, well, 375 and a half people died. Because it's a scam. Because they're lying. And you should note how the national press in this country is being used willfully and knowingly by Hamas to advance the Hamas propaganda to make Israel and Jewish people everywhere look bad as a way to win the war. They've weaponized a death toll that is already based on a lie, and the American media is just so happy to push that propaganda for them. They know it. And Joe Biden says nothing. Between bank collapses, between the economic turmoil in the country, the Dow futures dropped pretty significantly this morning. It's now down over 300 points. You've got China buying up gold reserves in the world, along with Brazil, Russia, India, South Africa, buying up gold reserves. The national debt keeps going up. People are warning about economic turmoil coming to the country. That's why Swiss America, trusted leader for 40 years in precious metals, wants to help you protect your hard-earned assets right now. They're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. They can educate you on how to protect your hard-earned assets, and they've got the shocking report that tells you how to do it, The Secret War on Cash. It is an amazing report to read, how so much of the corporate environment and governments are conspiring to push you into not using your actual assets, but to use credit and other things they can control and see. You need to get this report. It is completely free. All you do is call or text 800-289-2646. 800-289-2646. You just mentioned my name, Eric, E-R-I-C-K. You can text it, Eric, to 800-289-2646, or when you call them, they answer. You give them my name, say I referred you. You get their report, The Secret War on Cash, completely free. It includes digital forms of currency. It's an amazing, well-documented report to read. 800-289-2646. Just mention my name. You can also go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric, SwissAmerica.com/ERICK, or call or text my name, Eric, to 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646. Message and data rates may apply. This hour of the program brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan, wherever you are in the United States of America. If you are buying a building, building a building, buying a franchise for your business, they help businesses. They can help you. They make their own lending decisions. Reach out to them. FirstLibertyGA.com. FirstLibertyGA.com. Tell them I sent you. Logan in Green Cove, Florida. You're going to be up next. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
Great.
So I kind of wanted to get your legal ideas on a thought that I was having after this Hunter Biden verdict was handed down. It almost seems like maybe Biden's handlers and the DOJ and the Democrats and the far left, I don't want to say allowed Hunter to get convicted, but are going to use Hunter's conviction or verdict, I should say, to look at former President Trump and say, see, look, the justice system does work. You have no basis to be all angry and your pennies in a bunch because it works. I'm just looking for your thoughts on it.
Oh, yeah. Look, they're already doing that. I mean, they're literally, the verdict is not even an hour old, and they're already starting to do that and say, see, the system's not rigged. You can't say that what happened to Donald Trump. Well, federalism matters. There are individual states. There's a difference between a federal trial and a state trial. You do not have a donor to Donald Trump in the form of the judge who oversaw Hunter Biden's case, but you do have a Biden and Stop Trump and his right-wing legacy fund donor in Judge Merchant in New York. But, of course, the Democrats are going to tell you all that. They're going to confuse it. And, of course, Joe Biden's going to go out and say, I would never pardon my son. I'm so committed to justice, I'll never pardon Hunter Biden. You know, and I know, and everybody else knows, the moment Joe Biden can get past this election, he's going to pardon Hunter Biden. You know it, and I know it, and every Democrat who's right now screaming at me through the radio saying, no, he's not. You all know he's going to pardon Hunter Biden. You're lying if you believe otherwise. He's going to pardon Hunter. I mean, I literally will be stunned. And here's what gets me, though. Here's what really genuinely gets me. Is a lot of the Democrats who right now are saying he would never do that. Joe Biden is a man of his word. He'll never do that. The moment he does, they're going to say, well, of course he was going to do it. He's a dad. He loves his son. They will move the goalposts so fast to try to justify it, it'll make your head spin. It's remarkable. Jonah Goldberg was on what I think it was Chris Wallace's show on CNN and made this point that, of course, he's going to pardon Hunter Biden. And the progressive there's, no, he's not. He's a man of his word. He would never do that. If Hunter Biden is guilty, he's going to serve time. He's going to face justice because Joe Biden loves justice. And Goldberg, I wish I had the audio, but Goldberg's like, y'all know the moment he does, y'all are going to say, of course he was going to do that because he's a loving father. We all know how this game works. But right now, yes, the Democrats are saying, see, the system's not rigged. Hunter Biden got a fair trial just like Trump. Except Hunter Biden's judge is not a judge who was a campaign donor to Donald Trump. And Hunter Biden's prosecutor did not campaign on prosecuting Hunter Biden. But Donald Trump's judge was not just a donor to Joe Biden, but specifically gave money to a fund earmarked for Stop Donald Trump and his right-wing legacy, and Donald Trump's prosecutor campaigned on prosecuting Donald Trump. These are just the inconvenient truths the Democrats refuse to want to discuss. Now, when we come back, they got a problem, the Democrats do. It's called Nevada. Some of you say Nevada. The people from Nevada say Nevada. I used to say Nevada until I had to go do a presidential debate in Nevada, and they told me I had to say Nevada, or the people in Nevada would get mad at me. In Nevada, the Democrats have a problem. It's a state that leans Democrat, where the Democrats should do well. But not only is Donald Trump leading there, he's made a campaign promise in Nevada that even the middle-class women of Nevada are saying we may vote for him because of this.